Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Mr. Roy Makes.
Makes.
The situation is serious. Look inside there. Just as I thought. We have no more bread.
Cause bread is the food that keeps us alive. You can feed it to your son or even to your wife. You can make it on your own, even when you're stuck at home. Oh, bread is the gift of life.
Step 1, we need to prepare the yeast. So we already prepared 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. We have 1 teaspoon of sugar and 1/4 cup of water that is between 38 and 43 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to add these to the water. Shake it a little with that chopstick to make sure it's not dry anymore. And I will let that sit for a few minutes. So while the yeast is rehydrating, we prepared the flour for this recipe. So we have 3 cups of integral flour and 2 cups of regular unbleached flour. The recipe asks for 6, but since this one is a little more dense, it may choke the bread too much if we add already 6 cups. So if we miss any during the recipe, we'll check if we can add some more of that normal one, and we mix them together. This is a complex step. We need 1 cup of hot milk, 1 cup of boiling water, a tablespoon of shortening, half a tablespoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of molasses. So first thing I'm going to do is put that grease inside my container here. And then I want to mix it with the salt. Kind of try to mash it together, make salty grease. And also try to cut it a little in smaller pieces so it will dissolve better. That should be all right. Add the hot milk. And I'll mix that until all the shortening is dissolved. All right. No more salt in the bottom. So it's time to add the hot water, boiling water, and 2 tablespoons of molasses. Oh, sticky. Molasses is basically sugar, so it serves as food for the yeast and also coloring for the bread. That's 1. I'll help it dissolve in there. Second one. Very sticky stuff. Don't get this on your hands or your clothes. You may regret it. But on a toast, it's really, really good. Oop. Okay. This is ready to be dissolved in there too. I'm going to make sure everything is mixed together. The preparation will change color. That means the molasses is getting dissolved in the mix. You see there's still some at the bottom. When I scrape the bottom, very interesting smell. Milk and molasses together. Okay, so this is ready. We're going to let that cool down a little. Otherwise, if it's too hot, it's going to kill the yeast. Speaking of which, we should go check on it. Check this out. We started initially with a 1/4 cup of water and now we're almost at 3/4. These little bubbles are CO2, and that is what makes the bread rise. We are using today Fleischmann traditional yeast. I think it gives a better taste because it tastes stronger, and also it rises a little slower, so it's easier to manage. We are back, and the mixture is at an acceptable range of temperature at 43 degrees Celsius. And let's have a look at that yeast. That's more than a cup, right? Really, really rising. So we know we're ready to mix all of these together. First we put the mixture in. Mix it with the yeast. Once that's done, sorry about that. Once that is done, we are going to incorporate half of the flour. You don't want to put all the flour in one step because this will yield a bread that is very heavy and will not rise well. We call that choking the bread. Once that's done, we can start adding more flour. 1/4 at a time. I don't know if you can see, but we've gotten rid of the knife block and we cleaned that surface thoroughly because after this is completed, it's going to be time to knead the bread with our own hands. When I was a kid, my mother used to make bread once or twice a week. And let me tell you that this is way beyond anything you can imagine from a commercially sourced bread. So she's folding the dough around the flour, making sure she gets little bits of flour inside the dough so it doesn't become too sticky. It looks like you won't need more flour, right?
I don't think so. Let's keep going a little bit.
What type of texture are you looking for?
It must not be too sticky, but just a little bit, because it must not be too dry.
So if it's too dry, it will not rise.
It will probably choke.
And if it's too sticky, you won't be able to work it.
Yeah. See, the more I knead,
The more you need, yes.
it becomes stickier because it kind of absorbs the flour.
Okay, so every once in a while you need to put some more.
But at some point it won't absorb anything anymore.
Okay,
like,
so you'll see when it's like saturated. It will not accept more flour.
yeah, like pretty much right now.
Folding the edges. Back in there. 2 hours?
Yes.
Okay, so any means of protection we need during that time?
Yes. Humid cloth.
All right. You can see here who's doing the technical parts and who's just helping. I'm not a bread maker. So we need a damp pot. There's just a normal normal kitchen towel that we're using. And it's warm water. But I want to squeeze it thoroughly because you don't want water to drip on the bread. So with all of my might, squeeze that. All right. Still damp, but not wet. Cover that and set ourselves an alarm for 2 hours. So it's been 2 hours. Let's have a look at that beautiful bread. Oh, quite big, but not really as big as we thought it would become. There may be two reasons for that. The yeast is getting old. We haven't used it in quite some time, and also Trish thinks that she may have choked it a little bit with too much flour. So what's the next step? Punch it. Check this out. It's fun. Ew. So what you're gonna do is work it again and transform it into 2 loaves of bread?
Yeah.
Right? To be perfectly honest, we're not quite satisfied with this result. They've been rising for an hour, and this is the final result that we have. This is going to be some heavy bread for sure, because usually it goes like up there and higher than the mold. This one is not so bad, but this one is going to be one heavy lump of bread. Let's put some molasses in there. So we're putting that in the oven for how much time?
30 to 40 minutes, but since they're quite small, probably more 30, but we'll see.
We'll set it for 30, and if there's anything, we'll roll it back. It's 400 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 minutes, and we'll come back and check it in a few minutes. 30 minutes have passed. Let's check these buns. Sounds hollow, which means most of the time it means that they're cooked. This is a very crusty bread, very solid. I like that. Put butter on that. Oh, this is a treat. I think, oh, you see it has risen a little more, which is cool. It's gonna be easier to digest. Next, taste test. Check this out. Doesn't look too bad. And the crust is not as thick as I would have thought. Check this out. So in order to appreciate the full experience, we need a bit of butter.
Yep. A little bit more.
My turn.
It's still warm.
Yeah, that's when it's the best.
Cheers.
It is heavy. But
Not
the
that
taste
much.
is good.
I've seen worse.
Yeah, first times we did. First time we made bread, it was like a brick.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. So I've seen better, but I've seen worse. It's not our best bread, but it's okay.
That's good enough for us.
We all make mistakes. Don't use old yeast.
Don't choke your bread. You see when she made 2 balls out of it, choked it. Hope you enjoyed this video and the song. I'll see you guys in another video. Bye. Makes